Hello and welcome to episode 133 of the HamCorp Training Manual. In this episode, infrastructure upgrades, specifically naqfuel generation, UIV component assembly line, more xenoxene, and more radox. It was a lot of waiting, but definitely rewarding. Besides, I genuinely enjoy AFK games, not being sarcastic. Seriously. Ooh, second DTPF is done. And wall shared. So this whole, I guess now it would be called the middle layer of coils, is shared. And this is a really cool design, actually, because in the XZ plane, you can continue to share this kind of endlessly, I think. Maybe I'm wrong, but from looking at it, I feel like I can always share the outermost layer of coils. So I can just tile this forever, and that's pretty cool. I still have to hook this up and turn it on. And I'm basically just going to use a crafting input proxy, so it's always running on the same recipe. This is basically just going to be a 2x speed up because I'm just going to use the crafting input proxy and have both DTPFs running the same recipe all the time. But before I do that, I need to upgrade fuel. Originally, I was just going to do it off camera and then come back and be like, hey, look, I did it. But it's a little more involved. Not involved, but it's a little more interesting because there are new recipes that I've unlocked. So I use Mark V fuel as a reminder. Pretty soon I can do this bottom recipe, but for right now this is still out of reach because I don't have molten Melion and molten Creon. So for now I will stick with this top recipe, which I've been using. Nothing changes here, except the Mark IV fuel has 2 new recipes unlocked. This bottom one, in theory, is doable, but it needs tier 4 coils, which again, in theory, is doable. But it would take an insane amount of time because these coils need UXV circuits, which are quantum circuits, and these need pico circuits to make. And pico circuits are the one I was complaining about taking 500 seconds. So, like, yes, I could make these tier 4 coils, but they are astronomically expensive right now. So, this is locked out, which leads me to this new recipe. Instead of using nether star dust and praseodymium, I will instead use bedrockium dust and hypogen. Everything else is the same, except I get twice as much Mark IV fuel. AKA, I need half as much Mark III fuel, which is great, because Mark III fuel production is my bottleneck. Here, there are no new recipes. I'm still going to continue to use the chromatic glass, but making the heavy and light Naquata fuel is still pretty slow, so I need to upgrade that part at least. And to do that, instead of scaling things up, which is objectively the better idea, I'm instead going to do the worst idea of just overclocking stuff. Because the LCRs can be overclocked forever. They're perfect overclocks, so there's no efficiency loss. The Vulcanus currently is actually not using all 8 parallels, so I could double the processing speed here, and on top of that, I could overclock it even more and get some perfect overclocks because the coils I'm using are kind of dog shit. I'm just using HSSG coils, which gives me 1 perfect overclock for this recipe. But I have a few extra hypogen coils. I made too many by mistake, but I can use them here, and that will give me a total of 4 potential perfect overclocks. So I could bring this up from LUV to ZPM for the parallels, and then 4 tiers up from that, if I'm doing the math correctly. So that will massively speed up my, what does this even make? The emulsion? Yeah, the acid Naquata emulsion production. And then that goes into an LCR, which can be overclocked forever. That goes into a centrifuge. This one is probably where I will need to spam a few more machines because there's no mega centrifuge yet. Thank you, Chrome. Shout out, Chrome. And also probably the Dangote needs to be spammed. Or I could just make a mega distillation tower. So I'm also going to have to update these storage monitors and my level maintainers to the new items. Hopefully I don't miss anything and fuck something up. But I'm glad to not rely on praseodymium anymore. But alright, time for more power. One infrastructure livestream later, I have upgraded my Naquata fuel generation to UEV with hypogen coils. This is pretty fast. This is no longer my bottleneck, which is nice. On top of that, I switched out the recipe from the praseodymium one to the hypogen one. We'll see if I regret that, but right now I'm pretty happy because I am now generating fuel faster than I'm burning it. The new bottleneck is chromatic glass. To address that, You remember these things? These are for my dimensionally transcendent catalyst. Well, now they are all making chromatic glass. Still not fast enough, but it'd be like that, I guess. Besides that, here is another new thing. I've made more industrial coke ovens because these are so slow. And I'm already using all parallels and everything. So I have made 16 of them. They're all at UEV, along with every other machine here, also at UEV. The new bottleneck here is actually this dangote. So the raw redox is building up quite quickly. I'm just going to make a second dangote and like double share this, basically. But yeah, and that will make me more redox much faster, hopefully. And then soon, I will have enough to make the UIV component assembly line. Soon being a slightly inaccurate statement. Now you may be wondering, wait a minute, don't you need a ton of xenoxene to run this? And the answer is yes. I have expanded the biovat building a bit more, and these are all xenoxene. Do you remember how toxic it was to get my first xenoxene culture? It's only slightly less toxic to get more. I just repurposed the biocatalyst generation setup thingy. You know what I mean? So I repurposed that, and now this was hooked up to make the plasmids in these four, and then the plasmids go into this to make the xenoxene culture. Terrible, annoying, disgusting. Item conduits, export buses, gross. Not a fan. But it's done, and now I have 7 biovats. I don't think I'll be making any more. If I need more, I'm just going to overclock the shit out of them. I'm so tired of Bartworks. Anyway, I still have a couple of material shortages here. Phosphoric acid is easily solved. Super heavy redox is currently building up. I need to upgrade that distillation tower, but yeah. Neodymium is space mineable. Tungsten is space mineable. Albernite is space mineable. Tartarite is not space mineable, but I have a void miner, which I think has power failed. So I need to go turn that thing back on. Iodine dust? Where do I get iodine dust from? Electrolyzing laterite ore. Okay, easy. Space mineable. And the super dense transcendent metal plates. Oh, you know what? Let's make those right now. Now, let's see if I can do this. This is the first craft I'm trying that has an item input. Black hole. Very good. Very happy with this. And it's crafting. And I've wasted a tremendous amount of black hole. Oh, I could have made so many more plates in this time. Oh my god. Sick. It works. I should have done more with this black hole. Anyway, almost there. This is all I need now for 44 UIV component assembly line casings. This has been a journey. But these 3 things are pretty much solved, actually. The redox is just a matter of waiting. The tartarite is also just a matter of waiting. And the osmium, I can finally use the QFT to get it. This whole time, I haven't really plugged this in, but the time has finally come. But before I do that, I just want to mention one thing. The dimensionally shifted superfluid, there's an awakened draconium recipe, and there's a hypogen recipe. And for some reason, I never got around to updating the recipe. So this whole time, I've been using the awakened draconium recipe, which uses 4 times as much super heavy redox. Damn it. I have been wasting so much super heavy redox. I am depressed. And once I get eternal, I don't even need super heavy redox anymore. It's just heavy redox, which is much easier to get. But anyway, let's get some osmium going. Now, the way the QFT works, it's pretty straightforward. You put in items and you get outputs, but there are kind of modifiers you can add. So, firstly, you can use neptunium plasma to focus on a specific output if you want. Secondly, you can also use fermium plasma, and this gives you a chance for additional output. I don't know how much of a chance, and I don't know if the focusing means you get 100% just the item that you focused on or not, but either way, I will not be doing either of those things today. Neptunium plasma and fermium plasma are a little difficult to make, because fermium plasma is a Mark IV recipe, and neptunium plasma is as well. And it's just, I don't really want to overstrain my plasma infrastructure because these are already quite overstrained. Just keeping up with the plasma requirements for the TPM is kind of having these run all the time. So I don't really have the bandwidth to also be generating these things. So instead, I'm just going to mine more platinum ore. One more thing to note is you get parallels in the QFT based on the number of catalysts you have. So I'm currently crafting up 64 platinum group catalysts, just waiting on some carbon nanites, but that gives me 64 parallels. These are not consumed, so what I'm going to do, and I hope this works, is I'm going to just keep them in storage and stocking bust them. That way I can have as many as I want. I could go up to, like integer limit if I wanted. Besides that, now I can just use all of these dusts in here, and I kind of don't need a plat line anymore. I think. Let me actually run this and judge whether or not this is fast enough. I have a feeling it's going to be fast enough, but we'll see. Yeah, this is pretty fast. And also, I'm so sad. Look at this. It has this cool effect, but I built it sideways, so it looks stupid. Man. Maybe I should just build it upright. That said, this is very fast. Very, very fast. Yeah, I don't need a plat line. This is very quickly going to gobble my platinum metallic powder dust. That's great. I've gone up. Look at the osmium. Just watch this. I'm just not gonna say anything. Just look at the number. Oh my god. Well, plat line is solved. All right, home stretch for the component assembly line. I just need these motors, these bio mainframes, and these optical mainframes. The power situation is not good. Extremely not good. I've sort of had to juggle turning things on and off because the priority is to keep these DTPFs running, and I simply don't make enough power for crafting stuff at the same time. So it's been a bit rough juggling things. I started out having problems with machines being clogged, like doing crafts, so I wasn't able to level maintain the things needed to make power. The DTPF was one example of where this was a problem, and I've noticed some things about the crafting input buffer, and I've learned some things about input placement. So about the cribs first, this might be true for the crafting input bus as well, I'm not sure, but it probably is. The recipes in here are all input separated, and the prioritization is from the top left to the bottom right, like in reading order. Recipes that are closer to the top left will happen before recipes that are on the bottom right. So in this example, hypogen will be crafted before spacetime, even if both inputs are present in the buffer. So neutronium is required for my power generation, molten neutronium, and this is how I make it. And previously, I had hypogen in front of it. So hypogen was getting crafted instead of the molten neutronium that I needed. So a bit of reordering fixed that, and that's great. But how do you handle things when they're in different input buffers? Turns out, for all multis, there is a set order in which the input buses are considered for recipe checks. I was told what it is in a stream, so I will go back and double check. But if I remember correctly, it's the multi from this facing will check top to bottom, front to back, and then left to right in that order. So input buses that are closer to the top left of the multi will be considered first, and the input bus that is at the bottom back right will be considered last. So recipes that are in this crafting input buffer will be prioritized over the ones that are in this one, because this is to the left of that one. And that has been true, which is super cool. So I do my crafts, right? And you can see that there's a billion inputs in this one because I'm making hypogen, but I need infinity for my power gen. So when I need infinity, the level maintainer makes a request. All the infinity goes into this. All the infinity inputs go into this crafting input buffer, and it takes over. So now it's making infinity, even though there's stuff to make hypogen. And it was making hypogen before. So it's kind of overridden that craft request for a more important craft request. That is super sweaty, but sort of important for me just because of how level maintained all my stuff is. So I need to be careful in that the things that are level maintained are prioritized over the things that are actively requested, because presumably my level maintained stuff is more important. Yeah, nearly there. This is just waiting. I'm just gonna wait. See you soon. Genuinely multiple days later. UIV component assembly line casing. Oh, finally. Surprisingly, there is no quest about this. And I'm a little sad that making higher tier component assembly line casings don't take off the quests of the lower tier ones. So eventually, I'm gonna have to come back and make these casings just for the quest, which is kind of silly. But I'm a kind of silly guy. Alright, onward to the next massive weight. Eternal coils. I'm gonna need so much space-time. And I can make all the space-time. I can make these. It's just a matter of waiting. In the meantime, of course, I will make the optical mainframes that I need. All 2,112 of them. And also, I seriously need to scale up my power. So while my eternal coils are crafting, or I guess the subcomponents are crafting, I am debating between making more LNRs and scaling up my naqfuel production, or starting to make picocircuits and then the Dyson Swarm ground unit. I'm starting to think that I'm going to be able to do that before the eternal coils are done, so maybe I will. One way to speed up my naqfuel generation is to make the tier 3 naqfuel refinery coils. This is extremely doable. In fact, I would dare say it's cheap at this point. Just some UEV parts, transcendent metal, optical mainframes. And it's extra cheap because now I have a UIV component assembly line, which means I can make UEV parts for 25% less. That's pretty nice. So let's do that. Thank you for watching this episode of the HamCorp Training Manual. In the next episode, we will quickly upgrade the Nanoforge and PCB factory both to tier 3, and then we will continue to craft picocircuits and potentially the first Dyson Swarm ground unit. Eternal coils will of course continue crafting in the background. See you next time.